reside.
Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf candidate Dr. Arif Alvi elected as 13th President of Pakistan. Alvi contests against joint opposition candidate Maulana Fazlur Rahman and PPP candidate Ehtezaz Ahsan. Arif Alvi receives 353 electoral votes, Fazlur Rahman 184 and Ehtezaz Ahsan 123 votes. Chief Justice Saqib Nisar says he knows who changed samples of bottles found from Pakistan People's Party's leader Sharjeel Memon's hospital room. Justice Nisar says he has not called for examination of content of bottles found from hospital room. National Accountability Bureau files corruption reference against former Minister for Law and Justice Babar Awan for delay in Nandipur project. Former Federal Minister for Water and Power Raja Parvez Ashraf also faces corruption reference for delay in Nandipur project. Corruption reference is filed after a commission holds officers of Ministry of Law and Justice responsible for delay. Chief of Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa says sacrifices of martyrs and their families should be acknowledged. Progress of Raddul Fasad and regional peace is also discussed at conference. Founder of the Haqqani network Jalaluddin Haqqani dies. Taliban statement says he has been ill and bedridden for several years. French Navy ready to act if Scallop War clashes erupt again. Row highlights problems between European member states over fishing rights. China's Xi and African leaders attended roundtable session of China-Africa Forum. Chinese president praises cooperation between China and African countries. Former International Cricket Council Chairman Ehsan Mani elected as new chairman of the Pakistan Cricket Board. Mani elected unopposed at a special meeting of Board of Governors at Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore. New Van Gogh biopic receives Venus premiere. Director Julian Schnabel turns on red carpet in his pajamas. And Bollywood actor holds special screening for psychological drama in Mumbai. Film is set to hit theatres across India on September 7th.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. You're watching 92 News HD UK. I am Muhammad Yasir Rizwan.
And my name is Faik Mahmood. Starting off with the top story today, Dr. Arif Alvi, the candidate of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, has been elected as the 13th President of Pakistan. According to unofficial results, Arif Alvi has received 353 electoral votes. Joint opposition candidate JUIF Chief Maulana Fazlur Rahman 185 and PPP candidate Ehtezaz Ahsan 124 votes.
Alvi vowed to work as the president in an improved way.
Allah ka ehsan hai.
The PTI candidate Dr. Arif Alvi has been elected as the 13th President of Pakistan. Members of National Assembly and Senate felicitated Alvi after the unofficial results were announced. According to unofficial results, LV elected president with 353 electoral votes. JUIF chief Maulana Fazlur Rahman remained a runner-up with 185 and People's Party Etazaz Ahsan stood third with 124 votes. Speaking to media outside Parliament House, Alvi said he wished poverty to be eliminated from the country.
मैं मशकूर हूँ इमरान खान साहब का कि उन्होंने मुझे इतनी बड़ी जिम्मेदारी के लिए नामजद किया। मैं मशकूर हूँ अपने सारे वोटर्स का कि जिन्होंने पाकिस्तान तहरीक इंसाफ को वोट दिया और इमरान खान को कामयाब किया। कई साल से कौम जिस अंदाज से जागी है, कौम जिस अंदाज से अपने अंदर फलाह चाहती है, कौम जिस अंदाज से करप्शन ख़त्म करना चाहती है और हर आदमी की दहलीज तक इंसाफ जाना चाहिए, हर बीमार का इलाज होना चाहिए, हर मजदूर को रोजी मिलनी चाहिए।
Alvi received 212 votes from National Assembly and Senate. His opponent Maulana Fazlur Rahman got 131 and Etazaz Ahsan 81 votes. 6 votes were rejected from the parliament. From Punjab Assembly, Alvi received 186 votes, Fazl 141 and Ahsan only 6 votes. 16 votes of Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz and 2 votes of PTI were rejected. Ahsan received 39 votes from Sindh Assembly while Alvi got 22 and Fazl only 1 vote. Alvi also remained victorious from Baluchistan Assembly from where he had bagged 45 votes while Fazl got 15 votes. Ahsan received no vote from Baluchistan Assembly while no vote was rejected. Alvi succeeded from Khyber Paktoonkhuwa Assembly with 78 votes while opponent Ahsan bagged 5 and Fazl 26 votes. 111 out of 112 votes were cast in the KP Assembly.
ये फाइनल रिजल्ट एतजाज़ हसन साहब ने हासिल किए हैं 5 वोट, आरिफ और रहमान अलवी साहब ने 78 वोट्स, फजलुर रहमान साहब ने 26 वोट.
Alvi is expected to take oath of office on September 9, which will be administered by Chief Justice for Pakistan. According to Election Commission of Pakistan spokesperson, official results of presidential election will be announced by tomorrow.
Advisor to the Prime Minister on Parliamentary Affairs, Babar Awan, resigned from his post. He said being a legal practitioner, he did not find it adequate to keep sticking to the post while facing an inquiry. Awan in a tweet wrote he resigned from the post of advisor to PM on Parliamentary Affairs so that he might disprove allegations leveled against him. In the NAB reference, the resignation comes hours after the National Accountability Bureau filed a corruption reference against Babar Awan regarding a delay in Nandipur project in Accountability Courts, Islamabad.
The National Accountability Bureau on Tuesday filed a reference against former Prime Minister Raja Pervez Ashraf and former Minister for Law and Justice Zahiruddin Babar Awan for delaying the Nandipur power project. The NAB statement said the delay caused Rs 27 billion losses to the National Exchequer.
The Rawalpindi Directorate of the Bureau has filed a corruption reference against Ashraf, Awan and several civil servants, claiming that the delay in the Nandipur power project caused losses worth 27 billion rupees to the National Exchequer. Those accused besides then ministers are former Ministry of Law and Justice Secretary Muhammad Masood Chishti, former Law and Justice Secretary Justice Riaz Kiani, Research Consultant Shumala Mahmood, former Law and Justice Senior Joint Secretary Dr. Riaz Mahmood and former Water and Power Secretary Shahid Rafi. The Supreme Court had nominated a commission consisting of Justice Rahmat Hussain Jafri retired to fix responsibility of the Nandipur power project delay. The commission had blamed the Ministry of Law and Justice for the delay. The Ministry of Water and Power had sought advice from the Ministry of Law regarding the agreement. The letter had taken 2 years to respond. The unusual delay had caused 27 billion rupees losses to the National Exchequer. The NAB said its investigation had shown that the suspect did not fulfill their responsibilities.
Prime Minister Imran Khan has announced the formation of 3 new cabinet committees. Asad Umar will be chairman of the Privatization Committee. Ghulam Sarwar will head the Energy Committee and Khusro Bakhtiar will lead the CPAC Committee.
The Prime Minister has formed cabinet committees on privatization, CPAC and energy. The cabinet division has issued a notification in this regard. Finance Minister Asad Umar has been appointed chairman of the privatization committee comprising 7 members. The Law Minister, the Planning Minister, the PM's advisor on trade and textile industry, the advisor on institutional reforms and austerity will be part of the committee. The CPAC committee has 9 members. Planning Minister Khusro Bakhtiar will be chairman of the committee. The Foreign Minister, the Minister for Law and Justice, the Finance Minister, Petroleum Minister, Railway Minister, the State Minister for Interior Affairs and the PM's advisor on trade will be members of the committee. Petroleum Minister Ghulam Sarwar Khan has been appointed chairman of the 6-member Energy Committee. According to notification, the Finance Minister, the Planning Minister, the Railway Minister, the advisor on the Trade and Textile, the advisor on Industries and Production and the Cabinet Division Secretary will be the part of the committee.
The Rajanpur Deputy Commissioner complained of political interference in district administration. The DC has written to Dera Ghazi Khan Commissioner that MNA Nasrullah Dareshak is pressing for departmental transfers as favors to his constituents.
The Rajanpur DC has claimed that Dareshak is interfering in appointments and transfers of public officials. The letter says that MNA is pressuring him to appoint his favored patwaris to specific circles. The MNA son too was creating problems, he said. The Chakwal Deputy Commissioner has written a similar letter to the Punjab Chief Secretary complaining that MNA Zulfikar Ali was interfering in his work.
The Chief Justice of Pakistan said on Tuesday he was aware of who was behind the switching of samples sent for forensic examination the day he visited Sharjeel Memon's hospital room.
Justice Saqib Nisar's remarks came during the hearing of another case at the Supreme Court. The Sindh Chief Secretary said a report on the content of the bottle seems suspicious. It seems that the report has been tampered with, the Sindh Chief Secretary said. He said the CCTV footage of the hospital and Memon's room was available. We will submit a report after looking into the matter, he said. Justice Saqib Nisar remarked that he had not meant to seize alcohol. Had it been his intention, he said, he and have personally sent the samples for testing. We know full well who changed the samples, he remarked.
3 terrorists were killed during a police encounter in the metropolis Ittihad town early Tuesday. Police and law enforcement agencies conducted a joint operation on a tip of Ittihad town.
Police sources said that 2 of the 3 terrorists killed during the joint operations were suicide bombers. Explosives, suicide jackets, ball bearing and weapons were found from the possession of the terrorists, police sources added. The sources further said that the terrorists had planned to carry out an attack in Karachi on the same level as the one in Mastoon. The process to identify the terrorists is underway, the sources added. Further operations are underway to arrest accomplices of the terrorists.
More news stories lined up right after a short break.
Please stay with us. Leader of the opposition Jeremy Corbyn will meet the National Executive to solve the matter of anti-Semitism. Reports suggest that Corbyn will press for freedom of speech so that Israel can be bluntly criticized without risking allegation of anti-Semitism. The Labour head will debate the point during the meeting between Labour and National Executive Committee to reach a conclusion as soon as possible. Corbyn will also accept the international definition of anti-Semicist remarks but demand recognition of freedom of speech. In July, the opposition leader had refused to accept the definition presented by International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance.
Home Secretary Sajid Javed has warned he will not be afraid to take action against technology giants if they do not help to tackle child sexual abuse online. Mr. Javed said he was demanding companies take more measures or face new legislation. He added that some sites were refusing to take online abuse seriously and highlighted live streaming of child abuse as a growing problem. Facebook, Google and Microsoft say they are committed to tackling the issue. Mr. Javed said it was his personal mission to tackle online child abuse. Home Secretary told that 131 suspects have been arrested yet under the heinous crime. Now I want to see the same level of commitment from these companies and others for child sexual exploitation, he added.
The talk about Brexit has triggered a surge in support for Irish unity and Scottish independence that could lead to the breakup of the United Kingdom, two new polls have suggested. The majority of Northern Irish citizens would vote to scrap the border that separates the Irish Republic in the event of hard Brexit. A poll by Datapol for campaign group Our Future, Our Choice indicates. The survey found 52% would support Irish reunification after Brexit by scrapping the border, which has plagued trade deal negotiations with Brussels since the June 2016 referendum. More than half said they would vote for United Ireland compared to 39% who said they would rather Northern Ireland would remain part of the UK. An East London primary school has suffered significant damage after being engulfed overnight by a huge fire a day before the start of the term. Around 80 firefighters were sent to Rodding Primary School in Denningham at 4:50 a.m. on Tuesday. London Fire Brigade said a large part of the single-story building has been damaged by the blaze. During the blaze, firefighter removed a gas cylinder and cooled it down to help prevent an explosion. The cause of the fire is not yet known and an investigation is underway. There is no report of injuries. LFB said the blaze was brought under control after around 4 hours, adding that firefighters would remain at the scene for the rest of the day.
Agriculture Minister Stephen Travert said that the French Navy was ready to intervene if clashes between French and British fishermen over access to the scallop-rich seabeds erupted again on the open seas.
Travert said he had spoken to his British counterpart and that talks between the two sides were due on Wednesday after French vessels chased their rivals out of the Baie d'Issine last week. British fishermen accused the French of ramming their vessels and hurling projectiles. Disgruntled French fishermen, unhappy that their British rivals can dredge for scallops year-round while they are barred from doing so during summer months, said they came under a violent counterattack. The row highlights problems between European member states over fishing rights, a subject that is likely to become increasingly sensitive as Britain negotiates its future trade relationship with the European Union.
Jalaluddin Haqqani, founder of the Haqqani Network, one of the most powerful and feared groups in the Afghan insurgency, has died after a long illness.
Haqqani, who founded the network in the 1970s, relinquished operational leadership of the group some years ago to his son Sirajuddin Haqqani, who is now deputy leader of the Afghan Taliban. Haqqani rose to prominence as a guerrilla leader in the US-backed campaign against Soviet forces occupying Afghanistan, but later allied himself with the Taliban, fighting American troops after the Taliban were ousted in 2001. His group became known for complex, well-organized attacks on both Afghan and US military, as well as civilian targets and high-profile kidnappings. The Taliban statement said he had been ill and been ridden for several years.
Chinese President Xi Jinping and African leader congregated at the Beijing's Great Hall of the People for a roundtable meeting on the second day of the China-Africa Forum.
Leaders at the meeting included South African President Cyril Ramaphosa and Cameroon's President Paul Biya. During the meeting, Xi praised cooperation between China and African countries. Chinese officials say this year's summit will strengthen Africa's role in Xi's Belt and Road Initiative to link China by sea and land with Southeast and Central Asia, the Middle East, Europe and Africa through an infrastructure network modeled on the old Silk Road.
The United States' decision to withdraw support from a UN agency operating in the Palestinian territories is a form of politicization of humanitarian funding, the organization's chief said on Tuesday.
Speaking to reporters in Geneva via phone call from Jerusalem, United Nations Relief and Work Agency Commissioner General Pierre Karahanbull said he deeply regrets the U.S. decision which was announced on Friday. He said the shortfall in funding means that as many as alternative sources possible, we need to be mobilized.
UNRWA received a mandate from the General Assembly, and that the member states of the General Assembly committed to funding UNRWA. And that, of course, from my perspective, the broader the base of donors that I can work with, the better it is. I certainly regret, as I've said very clearly, that the U.S. has decided now to disengage entirely. That is certainly not a desirable outcome. And that leaves us with just a very clear need to mobilize every single other source of funding that we can.
The United States, by far UNRWA's biggest donor, slashed funding earlier this year, paying out only $60 million of a first installment in January and withholding $65 million. It had promised $365 million for the whole year. The 68-year-old UNRWA provides services to about 5 million Palestinian refugees across Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and the West Bank and Gaza. Most are descendants of the roughly 700,000 Palestinians who were driven out of their homes or fled the fighting in the 1948 war that led to Israel's creation. Washington's move against UNRWA was the latest in series of US and Israeli policy decisions that have angered Palestinians and raised international concern. They include Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital in December, the moving of the US embassy to the contested city in May, and Israel's adoption of a nation-state law in July that says only Jews have the right of self-determination in the country. Volatile and unpredictable, and is restricting humanitarian access for humanitarian aid and agencies both for displaced Libyans and the refugees affected by the clashes. The UN-backed government based in Tripoli declared a state of emergency in the capital given the seriousness of the current situation.
After a week after a deadly stabbing in the Chemits led to violent protest and hostility towards foreigners, tens of thousands of people attended a spontaneously organized anti-racism concert in the eastern German city.
Close to an hour after German bands like Die Toten Hosen and others started performing at the Wir More event, the city on its website estimated the number of visitors at 50,000. 1 week ago to the day, far-right demonstrators clashed with leftist protesters in Chemnitz after an Iraqi and a Syrian were arrested over the fatal stabbing that had triggered the violent demonstrations. The atmosphere on Monday evening was calm and festive, as locals said their city was not far-right and they had no sympathy for what had happened in recent days.
United Nations urged the warring parties to spare civilians and allow safe passage to those seeking refuge as fighting raged between rival armed groups in Libya.
Speaking at a news briefing in Geneva, UN human rights spokeswoman Elizabeth Torresel said intense fighting in densely populated residential areas and near migrant detention centers left thousands of civilians without access to food and medical treatment.
The parties to the conflict have been firing indiscriminately and using weapons with wide area effects, including rockets, tank shells and artillery, in densely populated residential areas.
Charlie Yasley, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees spokesman, called on the rival factions to allow safe passage to humanitarian agencies bringing relief to displaced Libyans and migrants trapped in the camps in areas affected by the clashes.
UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, is today appealing to parties to the fighting to spare civilians and civilian infrastructure and to allow safe passage for those seeking refuge in safer areas.
Tripoli has been shaken by more than a week of clashes between rival groups, the latest episode of chaos in the North African country since the topping of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011.
The defense lawyer of the two jailed Reuters journalists said that all options are open as they seek the release of the reporters.
Speaking at a news conference alongside wives of Wei Lon and Kyo So-oh, defense lawyer Kim Mong-za said the options include taking the case to international forums as well as an appeal.
Yesterday about the options, in any options we mean. So in that options, the international forum or all these things are included, and including international forums, including the appeals, including all other things, options we are trying to tackle, and we are trying to take to get the release of the two young reporters.
He also said there was no physical evidence that the military pressured the court, which found the two journalists guilty on Monday and jailed them for 7 years under the Official Secrets Act.
We, as lawyers, we always cited evidence, solid evidence. So we have no evidence, the physical evidence. So I cannot say for sure that if there is pressure or not.
It was a landmark case seen as a test of progress towards democracy in Myanmar, which was ruled by a military until 2011.
Says that Walland didn't possess any secret papers and against the interest of the government. They didn't possess or didn't obtain those documents. It's a line of defense. And we have in Walloon's statement, and according to the even the prosecuting witness Moya Nai, we have set out and we have put out the fact that they were trapped, and all the papers, documents are pushed into their hands, and the data obtained or extracted from their phones intercept. They were illegally extracted without any legal permission or legal sanction.
Waylon 32 and KSOO 28 were investigating the killings of villagers from the Rohingya Muslim minority by security forces and civilians. When they were arrested in December, they had pleaded not guilty.
At least 6 people were reported killed in Japan as Typhoon Jebi sliced across the west, creating havoc at airports and damaging buildings.
Kansai International Airport, Western Japan's main international flight hub located on an island in the Bay of Osaka, was crippled in the storm after a tanker crashed into the main bridge leading to it. The main terminal was also flooded after a storm surge coincided with a huge tide, leaving airport staff struggling to keep water out. Over 2,600 people were stranded there, Kyodo News Agency reported. The storm made landfall on Shikoku, the smallest main island, around noon. It wrecked across the western part of the largest main island, Honshu, near the city of Kobe several hours later, before heading out to the Sea of Japan in the evening.
More news stories lined up right after a short break.
Please stay with us. Top designers, A-list stars and thousands of fashionistas prepare for New York Fashion Week. The show kicks off on Thursday, September the 6th.
The week will host well over 100 runway shows and presentations plus countless parties at venues throughout New York, including from top names such as Calvin Klein, Marc Jacobs and Ralph Lauren, which is marking its 50th anniversary on Friday with a Central Park gala. The social media revolution has brought an immediacy and lighter touch to fashion, experts say, with many designers harking back this season to the freewheeling 1980s for inspiration. The 80s are a big trend, said Julie Wilson, Essence magazine's fashion and beauty director, not only in the fall, but I think it will continue into the spring. Fashion Bible War Concord, calling the 80s and 90s the most referenced decades in the fashion at the moment. We are getting nostalgic, Wilson said, kind of crazy with the fashion and going back to having a lot of fun, she reflected, citing concepts like pairing socks with heels, sandals or sneakers. Pop superstar Rihanna will help close the week on a decidedly lighter note with a glitzy party featuring her Savage X Fenty Linger line, much of it available online immediately after the show, unlike in the old days when shoppers would have to wait for the latest look to hit stores' racks.
Stars of a new Vincent van Gogh biopic took to the Venice Film Festival red carpet evening for the movie's world premiere.
At Eternity's Gate stars William Dafoe as the famed artist, with appearances also by Mads Mikkelsen, Rupert Friend, Matthew Amlerick, Oscar Isaac and Emmanuel Signer. The movie is directed by Julian Campbell, who made The Diving Bell and The Butterfly, and is himself an artist who recreated some of Van Gogh's work for the film and helped Dafoe learn how to handle a paintbrush. Campbell dressed down for the premiere, turning up on the red carpet in his pajamas.
Bollywood actor Manoj Bajpayee attended the special screening of psychological drama Gali Gulaiyan in India's showbiz capital, Mumbai.
Gali Gulaiyan is the brainchild of debutant director Dipesh Jain and tells a tale of a paranoid man who is left rambling in a maze-like setup.
बड़ी ब्यूटीफुल है, बड़ी नए तरीके का फिल्म है और नए तरीके का डायरेक्शन, नए तरीके से कहानी, नए तरीके के परफॉर्मेंसेस, तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें जो इस फिल्म में हमने कुछ नया करने की कोशिश की है और लोगों को बहुत पसंद आ रही है जो लोग। बट हाँ, ये फिल्म जल्दी छोड़ती नहीं है। ये फिल्म आपको ये नहीं होगा कि लोग आने के साथ ही आपको कुछ बोलना शुरू कर देंगे। लोग लेते हैं समय, रात कुछ एक मैसेज आए हैं जो रात भर लोग सोए नहीं हैं फिल्म देखने के बाद, तो उस हिसाब से डिस्टर्ब करती है, सोचने पे मजबूर करती है और हम जानते थे कि ऐसा होगा और जब ऐसे लोग बात करते हैं तो हमें अच्छा लगता है कि फिल्म अपना प्रभाव छोड़ रही है।
Bajpayee plays the titular role in the film and he said the film would present a new way of direction, storyline and would definitely leave the audience speechless. The film is set to hit theaters across India on September 7.
That's all from the news studios. For more details, you can visit our website 92NewsHDUK.tv.
Keep watching 92 News.